written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
The next 5 weeks should look like.
Good morning. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. I call this Board of Directors meeting to order and welcome to our board meeting. I'm Kat Fimmel, President of the 2023 Board of Directors. This regular meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Board of Directors is audio and video recorded by the RCSC management staff. Please be advised that there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. Please take out your telephones and electronic devices and check to make sure they are in the silent mode. I will try at the end of the meeting to remind you to turn them back on. Now I'd like to introduce our timekeeper, Tracy Bussebarger, our management staff, Bill Cook, General Manager, Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance, Mike Whiprue, Director of Building and Infrastructure, Chris Herring, Director of Operations, I'm not sure if he's here today, Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds, Mike Diermeyer, Director of Bowling, Jolene Higgins, Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator, and for the first time, introducing Beth Lucas, Sun City Visitors Center and Marketing Manager, and of course, Marcia Johnson, the Corporate Executive Coordinator, and Teresa Serino, who is up in the booth, I hope. Okay. I also would like to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Carly Young, our audio visual engineers. Good morning. I want to take a moment to welcome all of you and to ask if anybody is new to the meeting today. No hands? Okay. Two in the back. Hi. Okay. Okay. The first item of business is the roll call by the secretary.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. President Fimmel.
Good morning.
Vice President McAdam.
Good morning.
Treasurer Fast.
Good morning.
I'm here. Director Ruff.
Present.
Director Darbut.
Here.
Director Nichols. Director Nikowski.
Here.
Director Collins.
Here.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And just so that you not be concerned, Mr. Nichols is on travel, probably enjoying himself. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the April 5th meeting, which was rescheduled the March meeting rescheduled to April 5th. The minutes have been posted. Are there any comments, corrections, anything you'd like to say about the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Next is the treasurer's report.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Yes, I'm sorry.
We didn't vote to
Director
approve them. We didn't vote to approve the minutes.
We didn't
just
vote
did
to
for a
approve the
second.
minutes. We like the minutes, but we didn't vote to approve them. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No opposition. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Rupp. Next up is the treasurer's report.
Thank you, President Fimmel. The balance of unrestricted funds as of March 31st, 2023 was $21,317,207, which includes a $2.5 million cash reserve. Restricted funds include the Preservation and Improvement Fund, PIF, and the Capital Reserve Fund. As of March 31st, 2023, PIF had a balance of $31,903,029, and the Capital Reserve Fund had a balance of $5,623,542. The carry-forward balance, which is a component of the $21.3 million unrestricted funds balance, was $10.1 million as of March 31st, 2023. The corporation operated within its budget, and I think we have also included an investment report. Would anyone like me to read that? Then I will conclude.
The mad rush for that. Marcia, was there some issue with the reports in the back?
The one that I printed back there was from the last meeting. That was my error. We have the correct one, and management has the correct one in our books. I don't know how that happened, but if anybody would like a copy of the current one from this meeting, you can come to the corporate office and I can give it to you, but it was in the email blast.
Okay, are there any questions, comments, additions with regard to the treasurer's report? Hearing none, we will file the report as written. Next up is the management report. Are there any questions or comments on the management report? Yes, Vice President McAdam.
Yes, okay, I actually have 3 items here. I noticed that Director of Bowling, Mike Dermeyer, is not here, but maybe somebody else would be able to answer this question. I just wanted to make the statement that it's really nice to see the uptick in usage, and I would like to congratulate Mike and his team for all they're doing. At the same time, I'm just wondering whether we carry data on what percentage of the total users at bowling are residents versus non-residents.
Madam President, Director McAdam, so yes, we can pull that data out of the Brunswick, I'm fairly certain, out of the software. So if that's something that you would like for him to pull, we can certainly pull that. I have to check with him first. Of course, the one time that Mike's not here, right, we get a question. So.
Yeah,
we do. We have, so Kevin's telling me we do.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. I think it would be helpful for us to see.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows that off the top of his head, too.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Also, and I'm not sure if this was available to all of the members, there was a chart of chartered club attendance for the first quarter of this year. And I guess I would just like to ask whether there were any surprises as you looked at that information, or whether there was any sense of direction or conclusions that you drew from that.
Madam President, Director McAdam, yes, and actually I have that in my GM report. It is year over year, first quarter, check-ins were slightly down from 2022. I think a part of that was we were coming out of COVID, so there was a lot more excitement to get out and utilize our facilities, but I also believe that weather was an impact this year in terms of checking in for any of our outdoor activities.
Okay, I guess I was not just asking about the total numbers, but also as far as the comparisons of various clubs. Was there anything there that was out of the ordinary or anything that you thought was particularly surprising?
Not that I'm aware of. Chris didn't point anything out to me, so I'm not aware of anything that was out, other than the total numbers. We did look at the total numbers.
Yeah,
so.
okay, all right. Thank you. And then my last question would simply have been that you always list what the trend is in property transfer balances. Said that was up 5.3%. I assume that means in April over March. Is this also a reflection of property transfers themselves, or just the balance that you have in that amount? And what I guess I'm driving at is, what is the trend for this year in terms of home transfers, which obviously is the thing that impacts our PIF income the most?
Madam President, Director McAdam, the resales for the first quarter are down compared to quarter one of 2022, fairly significantly, but January and February were down quite a bit. March seemed to bounce back. We'll see about April, but definitely Q1 of this year is down compared to Q1 of last year.
Okay, can you give us an idea of what the range of the downness is?
So the run rate, if you annualize Q1, the run rate is looking at 1,600 total resales, whereas last year in total was about 2,200. So pretty dramatic.
Okay.
But I think it's still a little early to kind of annualize the first quarter and make that assumption, but definitely slower this first quarter compared to last year.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Yes, General Manager Cook.
Madam President, Director McAdam, I could also add to that. So when I do the PIF forecast, we assume 1,500. So at this point, whatever has been approved assumes the 1,500, and at a run rate of 1,600, I still feel comfortable that our PIF forecast is still intact in terms of the amount that we're going to collect.
Do we have any other questions or comments about the management report? Okay, seeing no, the management report is accepted. Next up is the Recreation Center's update.
Thank you, Madam President, Board of Directors, and membership. So continuing our positive trends for the most part. So from a year-to-date income, $7.5 million was slightly unfavorable by $232,000. And again, weather negatively affected golf, but we do see a pickup now that the weather is starting to, actually become more Arizona-like. Year-to-date operating expenses of $4.7 million was actually favorable, so we're offsetting our shortfall in income. So wages, project cost timing, and lower software maintenance fees are driving this favorability. Year-to-date net operating excess was $2.6 million, and it's $534,000 favorable to budget. IT processed 80 service requests in March, and HR filled 11 job requests in March. And that actually, for the first time that I've ever known, we had no open requests or requisitions. So that's an amazing feat by HR, and it's also a testament to the next line item, which turnover for the first quarter was 26.4%, and we budgeted under 40%. So we're exceeding that quite a bit. So all of the initiatives that we put together in terms of keeping our employees and reducing turnover, such as increasing the number of vacation days and the accrual process and the 401k match, and increasing of our wages this year from an inflationary perspective seem to be working, so we're real proud of that. Building infrastructure, so 382 work orders completed in March, so that's, again, a big number. Mountain View is on hold per the board motion in the last meeting. Sun Bowl, so 34,000 of the 100,000 or the 1 million has been spent. Construction, we're again looking at Q2 and looking at a Q4 completion. Some of the milestones, so we have the final drawing set ready for county submission, and we're looking to submit that this week. Mike, are we close to that? Okay, good. Viewpoint Lake, I think everybody can see what's going on at Viewpoint Lake. We had a little wind issue yesterday that has been taken care of. So we spent $3.3 million so far. So the refill date right now is August with a completion of late September. So we're hopefully still heading down that path. We had the town hall number 8 conducted in April. We've so far, actually, this is updated, we have over 5,000 truckloads of soil have been removed, and then you can see that the shoreline construction has started with the liner installation in phase 1. So Best Friends Dog Club, so we are, we're always looking for space on that, but that's pending, the next PIF forecast. Clay Club renovation, $23,000 of the $340K budget has been spent. We're going to start construction the summer of 2023. Again, the electrical equipment lead times are driving some of that delay, but we did complete the LED lighting procurement. And then the next step is work to commence once the electrical equipment is in-house. So we expect hopefully June start date. Quilters are moved into Grand. I think I talked to Joanne, who is the president, and I believe that they've been pretty happy. I haven't heard any negative feedback, and I believe they've been in there for about 2 weeks or so. So I think we're going well. Things are going well there. Golf income of $2.9 million was unfavorable by about $42,000. So Brian's hitting his numbers, so that's a good thing despite the weather impact. The operating expenses of $1.4 million was favorable to budget by about $117,000, so he's doing a good job of keeping his expenses low. The net operating expense of $1.3 is $71K favorable to budget, and he had 44,844 total rounds in March. Bowling, as Director McAdam stated, bowling is kicking butt. Year-to-date income of $337. It's favorable to budget by $44,000. It's driven by open and league bowling and some liquor sales, increased liquor sales. Year-to-date operating expenses of $180K is $22 favorable to budget, $22,000, so keeping their expenses in line. Year-to-date net operating excess of $139,000 is $62,000 favorable to budget. Lineage, $37,858, highest February total since 2011. Operations. First quarter monitored activity visits are slightly lower than Q1 of 2022, but again, we talked about the outdoor activity was driving the lower check-ins due to the inclement weather. The club's office assisted the B&I folks with the Quilters Club move, so that was really a good collaborative effort to get everybody moved. It was not something that was a simple process, but I think it went through with very few hiccups. Events and entertainment, so we had the Easter egg hunt on April 8th. We had many in attendance. The Sun Bowl concert series continues with our last concert this Sunday. The Easter Sunrise Church service was held Easter morning, and that was well attended as well. We didn't have it last year, but this was the first year back. The next Sundial concert will be held June 14th and will be a free event featuring the main event. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
General Manager Cook, what is the forecast for the PIF forecast?
Madam President, could you repeat the question?
You said there'd be a PIF forecast coming.
Budget forecast. So we have talked about that. So we have one that was completed and approved in 2021, but we're waiting to see the results, really to see what the results are of what comes out of the Strategic Alternative Committee. And we're looking to also see and hopefully get approved by ADWR our plan to mitigate water. So that's a large number. So those are the things that we're waiting on in order to do a new PIF. I didn't want to do a new PIF and then have to keep redoing the PIF as new information comes in.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have another question. Go ahead, Jim.
Bill, removing the dirt, there was way more dirt than we expected. Is that going to still happen within budget?
Yes. So, Madam President, Director Ruff. So, yes, we actually had quite a bit more soil than we had originally expected, and we had a couple alternatives. Had we gone through and utilized the City of Glendale dump facility, it would have cost considerably more than what we had budgeted, over the $8 million. However, we did find a local person who is a farmer who also has a trucking business as well, and he actually came in and offered to do it at quite a considerably lower expense than taking it to Glendale, and therefore we are going to still, at this point, stay within budget. That's our expectation.
Good job on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Vice President again.
Yes, so I just have a question, and with respect to the Mountain View Center, you say that this schematic design was completed on March 7th. Can you tell us all exactly what that means?
So I am going to hand that off to the technical person here, so he can explain it a lot better than I can. So Mike, if you could, thank you.
Madam President, Director McAdam, yeah, the schematic design is, it's getting ready to go into more detailed design with the sub-consultants, the electrical, mechanical, structural, and that kind of thing. So, for instance, there is this deliverable set of drawings, and that's now part of your room and your strategic alternatives committee. So that's the deliverable. There's also some write-ups from structural and mechanical about what concepts they're going to be designing in the next phase, which we have on hold.
Okay. So is it, those are available at the Oakmont, what we're calling the Oakmont Lab right now. So if any members of the public wish to see that, they would have an opportunity to do so. Is that correct, Director Fast?
Yes, they're on a drafting table.
Now, I don't have the documents, the write-ups. I can provide those as well. But again, you do have the drawing set.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to any committee recommendations. No committee recommendations. Then we will move on to the second reading of some of motions. The first one up is for Vice President McAdam.
So on behalf of the Elections Committee, I move to amend Board Policy Number 27, titled Standing Committees, section titled Election Committees, as follows. Election Committee, also known as the Balloting Committee. The purpose of the Election Committee is to, and this is the new wording, the additional wording, to review and recommend election procedure changes, to recruit a sufficient number of board candidates, conduct the candidate forums, ensure that elections and recall elections of the board are conducted pursuant to the corporate documents, and announce the results.
Second readings don't require seconds, so I'm going to move on to the motion. The motion before you is the Election Committee, also known as the Balloting Committee. The purpose of the Election Committee is to review and recommend election procedure changes, to recruit a sufficient number of board candidates, conduct the candidate forums, ensure that the election and recall election of the board are conducted pursuant to the corporation documents. Ms. Johnson, please read the name of any member who signed up to speak on this motion.
When I read your name, please come up to the podium and state your name and member number. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. And Dave Whalen signed up.
Dave Whelan, 17077. This month, the addition of the new wording added to this this particular election committee. The way I see it, we're now in the business of solving problems that don't exist. have we had any problems with any of our elections over the years? None that I know of. Okay, there was one crank on the internet who somehow believed space lasers changed votes on the way to North Carolina or something like that. But have any problems been revealed with the last election or any other prior ones?
Yes, actually, there was one particular case that was very unusual, but the election committee has addressed that and thought, well, if we had one little issue last year related to an absentee ballot and whether it was sent and received and so forth, we tried to address that issue.
So over one problem that was immediately solved, we're adding more language.
Well, the reason for that, are you asking that question, or would you like me to respond? Okay, so the reason that we added this language was simply that the statement of scope would have prevented us from addressing that issue because reviewing election procedures was not part of our statement of scope. So all we've done is to add a little phrase in there that allows the elections committee to review issues that come up, such as the one that came up in the 2022 election.
I see. And not to be argumentative, ho, ho, ho. Wouldn't that be inherent in the elections committee in the first place if a problem was surfaced, that it would be addressed?
You would certainly think so, Dave. Absolutely.
Well,
you would
I
think that's
certainly
the
do
case.
think so.
But if it's not in writing and the scope declares these 4 things or these 5 things that are the things you can do, then the 6th thing isn't included. So it's just a matter of putting into writing the thing that we assume ought to be the scope of the elections committee. There's nothing nefarious behind this, I can assure you.
Okay. Well, using your example, it has to be in writing. The problem that surfaced, the election committee had absolutely no authority to do anything about it.
That's correct, and there has been no final decision made because we've been waiting for the permission to do this by expanding the scope of the committee.
Well, you stand by your comments, I stand by mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone has spoken that signed up to speak.
Thank you. There being no further member comments, the floor is open to the directors for discussion. No discussion. Then Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you. Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Darbutt?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 8 in favor.
With a vote of 8-0, the motion passes its second reading and is adopted. Director Collins.
I move to amend the Sun City Foundation Board Policy Number 2 titled Books and Records to include the following. As funds in the Sun City Foundation checking account diminish below $1,000, the RCSC controller will email the corporate executive coordinator to request the amount to increase the checking account total up to $5,000. This amount will be transferred from the foundation's money market account. The corporate executive coordinator will email the controller upon completion of the transaction the total amount transferred. The goal is to retain few funds in the checking account in order to maximize the returns from funds invested elsewhere.
The motion is as follows: as funds in the Sun City Foundation checking account diminish below $1,000, the RCSC controller will email the corporate executive coordinator to request an amount to increase the checking account to a total up to $5,000. This amount will be transferred from the foundation's money market account. The corporate executive coordinator will email tell the controller upon completion of the transaction the total amount of the transfer. The goal is to retain fewer funds in the checking account in order to maximize the return from funds invested elsewhere. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of members who have signed up to speak.
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Thank you. There being no further member comments, the floor is open to director discussion. Seeing no director
Madam President?
Yes, Director Nowakowski.
Confusing language. What it says is the checking account will always maintain an amount between $1,000 and $5,000 in a very long worded statement.
Thank you, sir. No other comments. Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you. Director Darbut?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 8 yes, 0 no.
With a vote of 8-0, the motion passes its second reading and is adopted. You going to do that? Okay. Treasurer Fast.
Motion number 3, second reading. I'm reading this on behalf of Director Nichols, who is on a cruise ship enjoying the bar right now, probably. I move to amend bylaws Article 5 titled Board of Directors, Section 5 titled Meetings of the Board, Paragraph 3, by adding the following. Directors can attend all duly called regular governing board meeting, informational meetings, and special sessions of the board, either in person, by telephone conference call, video conferencing, or other communication methods by which all participants can hear and talk to each other.
This is a motion to amend the bylaw Article 5, Section 5 to add the following language. Directors can attend all duly called regular governing board meetings, information meetings, and special sessions of the board of either in person, by telephone conference call, video conferencing, or other communication methods by which all parties can hear and talk to each other. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of members who signed up to speak on this motion.
When I call your name, please come up to the podium and state your name and member number. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. The first person would be Richie Miller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, thank you for all you do for us. I'm Richie Miller, number 103368. Madam President and directors, and this is Mr. Nichols' motion. I'm here to speak against this motion. Simply, this language that you're attempting to put into the bylaws is already in Arizona Revised Statutes 103820, almost identical. You have to comply with that law. You don't need it in the bylaws. That's just duplication. You have a lot of important work to do. I wouldn't work on just duplication. I think you should kill this motion. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, I realize that it is in Arizona Title 10. Robert's Rules request that you put this in the bylaws, and because we're governed by Robert's Rules, we are suggesting that this go in the bylaws so that it's specific and we're not violating Robert's rules.
Robert's rules are subordinate to your bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Marone.
Good morning. Good morning. Tom Marone, 100825. I am apprehensively in favor of this motion because the Arizona Revised Statutes already allows electronic meetings. However, what it doesn't provide is much more than a simply blanket statement with no real rules or guidelines to govern their conduct. Similarly, this motion provides no additional guidance to those already stated in the state statutes, and an argument can therefore be made it's not even necessary to mention in the bylaws, like the gentleman said. Prior to holding electronic meetings, there are many items that should first be addressed and established, some of which are, how many times can a director participate electronically? What determines if and when the entire meeting can be held electronically? What type of equipment is required to participation in a meeting? And are there different requirements for video conferencing as opposed to teleconferencing or any combination of the two? And what are contingency plans for technical difficulties and malfunctions? But first and foremost, unless properly addressed, a totally electronic board meeting where nobody physically meets, such as during the COVID restrictions, would conflict with the current bylaws, which requires that board meetings shall be open to the members, video recorded, and time allotted for member comments. I know it's impossible to anticipate and address every situation, but I believe the prudent approach is to establish some guidance for at least the most typical and known concerns. It may be too late to address them once you're in the middle of a meeting. I would suggest the board to first refer this to a committee to research and recommend a more comprehensive amendment to the bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick Gannon.
Patrick Gannon, 150056, and I want to speak in support of the motion. Having worked on a bylaws committee for many months, I know we try and strike a balance between common sense and what is overly procedural when we're working on bylaws, and I think this accomplishes that, and I want to support it. I understand the other gentleman's comments, but I still think this adds clarity to someone just reading our bylaws to know that these kinds of meetings can happen. Thank you. A second comment I'd like to, or request I'd like to make, is that when we speak publicly, and I'm speaking to all my member colleagues and to the board members, when we speak publicly at any meeting of the board, especially if we disagree with an action, that leads to good dialogue. That means we're having a good discussion, or we may be able to have a good discussion. I think that's important, especially if we disagree. Especially if we disagree with an action of the board. It's healthy to disagree, and that we do that respectfully. And I just want to say that in the last few months, I've watched some extremely inappropriate verbal attacks on the board members in these meetings. And my concern is this kind of behavior poisons the environment for realistic and good discussion. So I'm requesting that I hold myself to that standard, and that we hold all of ourselves to the standard of respectful comments. It really distracts from the critical work that you as board members and we as members in interacting with the board when we agree or disagree. It just takes away from that. So my request is that we respectfully go about our business. And I know it's extremely difficult in a public situation for the board to step in, because then that leads to more fireworks. So that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone spoke who signed up.
Thank you. There being no further member comments, the floor is open to director discussion. Director Ruff.
At the last meeting, I voiced some concern about particularly what the gentleman raised, the second one, but after looking at it and finding out about the Arizona code, I'm fully supportive of doing this, and I respect that each board member has the capacity to do what is correct for them and for our corporation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Director Collins?
No.
Oh, Director Nowakowski.
Thank you. I guess my comment is within our policies, we have a policy for how long a swim doodle can be to put in our pools, how many balls we can use on a peewee golf course, what the tire pressure of a golf cart has to be on our golf course. And here we are saying we're just going to do a blanket acceptance with no reservations of a possible total meeting of board members without any knowledge of where they're at, what they're doing, by video conferencing. I support this, but I think we should have a set of guidelines by which we need to follow, whatever those guidelines are. Whether we want to do it as a board, my suggestion would be that we change the first bylaw that says if we want to allow video conferencing, then 6 board members, the quorum has to be here in person. That would be a simple suggestion to make sure that we have a solid representation of the board in person. I'm open to any other suggestion. I'm not in favor of having a blanket right now. I don't believe we even have the capability. Do we need 6 video screens to have 6 board members showing up here? I don't know. I totally support it. I think we should catch up with technology and allow this, but I think the membership deserves a board that's here in person, and if somebody can't be there because of whatever circumstances, they can call in and do a video conference. But I don't think that this allows for a 6-member outside of the room quorum and 3 members here and present. I think our members deserve better than that. So,
What about a friendly amendment?
I would make a friendly amendment if that's. Let's get through the discussion of the other board members, and if that's the way it goes, I'll be more than happy to make a friendly amendment.
Secretary Totten.
I tend to like to have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed before moving forward. And as Director Nowakowski said, I don't think we have extrapolated enough as to, we have to give a few more instances. Also, going back at the December 13th, 2021 annual membership meeting, 5 motions were brought forth. This board has committed to working on those this year. One of them has been adopted, taken care of. There's confusion, a bit of confusion in the policies that hopefully will be taken care of today. But I almost see a need to either make a friendly amendment the way Mr. Nowakowski said, or I'm wondering if now would be the time to have a committee or a ad hoc committee, again, for the bylaws and the policies. I'm done.
Any other comments?
All right, I'll start it off. I'll make a motion to postpone or table this item for 60 days until such time as we can come up with a set of criteria on how to do video conferencing of board meetings.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Do we need further discussion on the postponement? Seeing none, I guess we are prepared to take a vote on the postponement. Secretary Totten.
Director Darbut?
No.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
No.
Director Ruff?
No.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Director Fast?
No.
President Fimmel?
No.
And I vote yes. Five, no. 3, yes. Motion failed.
So by a vote of 5 to 3, the motion to postpone has failed. We can now return to the roll call vote for the motion.
Madam President, can I make a friendly amendment before we proceed?
Director Nowakowski.
I move that the wording of the 6 Board of Directors in person shall constitute a quorum. Add the words "in person" for a meeting.
Treasurer Fast.
May I suggest that language has to go in the quorum bylaws?
Yeah.
So which bylaw are you amending then?
The first paragraph, section 5, members of the meeting, first paragraph. In the sentence that says 6,
Okay.
parenthesis 6, board members shall constitute a quorum. What I'm proposing is 6 board members in person at a meeting shall constitute a quorum.
Okay.
So we have an amendment that 6 members in person establish a quorum.
I'll second it.
Seconded. Discussion.
Madam President?
Director Ruff.
I would think that would violate the Arizona law to say, because it authorizes us to do it fully 100%. And it says that's a possibility. And I think you're denigrating the faithfulness of future board members to the corporation when you worry about that stuff, because we're certainly not going to do it anytime soon.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
I think we need to have legal look at this before we do it, before we proceed.
So we're back to a postponement.
Madam President?
Treasurer Fast.
I believe that our sister community, Sun City West, has the exact same language in their bylaws. I really don't see a need to have to expend the funds to have legal look at it. And my own personal feeling is, at least with respect to this board, if something doesn't work, we just deal with it and amend at that point in time. So that's just my feeling.
So we have a motion on the floor with regard to a quorum that's potentially not legal. Do we need to ask for this to be withdrawn?
Chair, I don't see how it's not legal, because, never mind.
Oh, Vice President McAdam.
So the relevant statute in Arizona, Title 10, 3820, actually states this: unless the articles of incorporation or bylaws provide otherwise, this is what happens. So we do have the complete freedom to provide otherwise in our bylaws if we choose to do so. But I would, I think, join Director Fast in being concerned, and actually Director Ruff as well, by making such a statement. We're actually saying that virtual attendance is not the same as physical presence is. And I think the whole purpose of the statute is to say we view these things on an equal basis. Now, granted, I believe that it is not a good thing for board members to intend to be dialing in virtually for 75% of the meetings, and I think that if they were to do so, they would not likely be reelected. I don't see that history points in the direction that there will be an abuse of this. I think that a lot of good can come from it. And I also would say that passing this, as it's been presented in Director Nichols' motion, does not prevent us in the future from crafting any kinds of nuances that need to be crafted should we find out that that the feared results of this actually do become real. We have the ability to react with agility to that sort of thing and to make changes as they are necessary. So, favor.
Director Collins.
Yes, General Manager Cook, one question. Do we have the capabilities to do that for our board meeting right now?
Madam President, Director Collins, so given that one of the options is teleconferencing, we absolutely have that capability. Now, my only concern with this is on our side, we will typically be able to, with the folks we have, we'll be able to, from a technology perspective, open up whatever channels would be required. The issue is on the other end, if we have a poor Wi-Fi connection or if we have a poor internet connection or the computer is not set up correctly, it could become difficult, especially in a teleconference or in a video conference perspective. But since we have teleconference as an option, we have that capability.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so for clarification, are we still on a vote with regard to the quorum, or did that vote fail?
No, we're still on
Still on the quorum issue.
on the quorum. The amendment that adds the wording of in person at a meeting shall constitute a quorum. 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
We did get a second on.
Yes, we did.
Yes. Director Collins second.
So we can vote.
Please call, Secretary Totten, please call the roll call vote.
Okay. This is for the amendment. 6 board of directors shall constitute a quorum in person at a meeting. Director Darbett?
No.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Director McAdam?
No.
Director Ruff?
No.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Director Fast?
No.
President Fimmel?
No.
And I'll vote no. So we have, thank you, 6 noes, 2 yeses. The quorum vote,
The quorum vote fails. So we are back to the original motion. Is there any final discussion before we take a vote on the original motion? Seeing none, Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Director Ruff,
Yes.
Director Collins,
No.
Vice President McAdam,
Yes.
excuse me, Director Darbit,
Yes.
Director Nowakowski,
No.
Treasurer Fast,
Yes.
President Fimmel,
Yes.
and I vote yes. 6 yes, 2 no.
6 yes. And the motion passes its second reading and is adopted.
Madam President, this is a point of order. In order to approve this, do we have to have at least a 6-member, 6-3 vote? I think that applies to some things, but I don't know if it applies to this.
Secretary Totten, what was the number of the vote?
We had 6.
I must have miscounted then, because there's 8 of us here, right? Well,
Yeah,
that's
2 no's,
8.
6.
That's 8.
It's
I'm not,
That's 6 to 2.
I'm just asking the question for in the future so that I know
I don't believe so.
what it is. No? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bylaw change requires 6.
Okay.
That is a bylaw change.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but not 9.
Okay. Next motion, Treasurer Fast.
I'm going to move to postpone this motion for second reading until the September board meeting.
Is there a second? Second by Director Ruff. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, Secretary Totten, please take the vote.
We vote on postpone? We don't vote on it.
Okay, then we will postpone this motion until, you said September? September, okay. Next on the agenda is the the consent calendar. There are 2 items. One is a request to approve the decharter of the Armchair Travel Club. The other is a request to approve the decharter of the Duffy Land Dog Park Club. Director Collins.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to remove an item from the consent agenda. The item is the Duffy Dogland Park Club.
Okay. I don't believe that takes a second. Did you want to comment further?
Yes. Okay, there's the club has been very dysfunctional. We've had officers leave. We need officers in the club for this club to continue. And I would say that I would postpone this for 1 month. And if there are not officers that can get along and run this club in the fashion that it needs to be run, then it needs to be chartered.
Thank you, Director Collins. Any other comment with regard to this item to postpone? Seeing none, the item has been removed and will now be postponed. The remaining item is the request for approval to decharter of the Armchair Travel Club. Do we take a vote?
Madam Chair, can somebody
Yes.
speak to why they're being dechartered? Yeah, if it's at their request, but are they merging with someone else or they're just going out of? Thank you. Got it.
General Manager, do you know why they're dechartering?
If you look on tab 4 of your
Yes.
book.
Madam President, it is in tab 4, but they can't get officers, so they just, it's just due to a lack of participation.
Are there any objections to the decharter of this club? Seeing none, the decharter is approved.
Madam President, with the Duffy Dogland, I think there was people signed to speak on that.
This is a consent, the item has been postponed.
Okay.
Okay, new business. Director Nowakowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excuse me, point of order.
Point of order.
We didn't vote on the consent agenda for the Armchair Travel Club.
We did that by, there was no objection to the decharter.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Director Nowakowski.
Seems like a lot of stuff and a lot of pieces of paper. When the last year, when we were in the process of redoing bylaws, we took out a lot of the bylaws, what were in our bylaws, put them in the policies. What happened then was the bylaws were never changed. So right now we have a set of documents that are bylaws that include all the stuff that was removed and put into the policies. So last month, Treasurer Fast had asked that some of this duplication be eliminated, but we didn't know what was being done, so I kind of sat down with our executive secretary, and we came through and deleted out the sections of the bylaws that included that duplication. So I'm going to read them, and I hope that makes some sense, because when I read them, it makes very little sense. I move to amend the bylaws.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
I apologize for the interruption. Rather than me presenting the motion after you present the motion, would you simply present the motion on behalf of the board?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to.
Thank you, sir.
I move to amend the bylaws by deleting the sections currently replicated in the reinstated board policies listed below, with the exception of board policy number 33, investments. With respect to board policy 33, title investments, I move that the reinstated policy be deleted and retained only in the bylaws. Here's what we're deleting. What is called Board Policy 1 was originally conflict of interest. Article 2, Section 2, we're deleting paragraphs 2, 3, 4, and 5. What is in Board Policy 2, Senior Management, used to be in Article 5, Section 6, Board Authority / Duties, Commissions, and Senior Management, item number C. That is what's being deleted. Board Policy number 3 used to be Corporate Records, Article 1, Section 2, deleting the entire section. What used to be, or what is Board Policy 6, used to be Corporate Privacy Policy, Article 1, Section 3, deleting the entire section. What is Board Policy 8, Privileged Cardholders, used to be Article 2, Section 5, deleting the entire section. Board Policy 9 is guests and hosts punch cards, used to be Article 2, Section 6, deleting the entire section. Board Policy 16, budget and financial reporting, used to be Article 12, Sections 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and those are what's being deleted. Board Policy 20 used to be Sun City Foundation, Article 14, and it's deleting the entire section. Board Policy 21, membership documentation requirements, used to be Article 2, Section 2, and deleting the entire section. Board Policy 24, the preservation and impact fee and fund, used to be Article 3, subparagraph 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1F, 1G, 1H, sections 3, 4, and 5 are being deleted. Board Policy 27, committees, what used to be Article 10 is deleting the entire section. And finally, Board Policy 31 is risk management, used to be Article 11, and deleting paragraphs 2 and 3.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of, I'm sorry.
Need a second.
Second?
I'm sorry, second. Second.
I second.
Okay. And Ms. Director Nowakowski read it for the motion, so I will now ask Ms. Johnson for the names of anyone member who wishes to speak on this item.
Dave Whalen.
Madam President?
Director Ruff.
I am confused by the way this is worded. Are we taking language out of the bylaws?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, but the way you're reading it, you're saying the board policy conflict of interest, Article 5. It should be bylaws, which section that we're taking
No,
it
these
out.
are policies that were in the bylaws that were removed from the bylaws and put back into policies.
Yes.
And when the bylaws were not passed, they remained in the bylaws. Now we're
Exactly.
just taking them out.
But this says the board policy conflict of interest, we're deleting the paragraphs. We're deleting those paragraphs from the bylaws, not from the policy.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an actual?
Yes, but this still talks to the, I agree, it states that we're currently replicated in the board policies, but we're saying what's in the board policy that's being deleted, but it's not being deleted from the board policy, it's being deleted from the bylaws.
Correct.
Is that not correct?
That is correct.
So this is just confusing.
Well, no, the motion is to amend the bylaws by deleting.
Okay. May I make a friendly amendment?
Treasurer Fast.
Yes, I would say I move to amend the bylaws by deleting the sections of the bylaws replicated in the reinstated board policies listed below, with the exception of policy 33. Jim, does that?
Well, you're still addressing the board policy as the section that's being deleted. It should be the bylaw article where you're deleting this paragraph that applies to conflict of interest.
Okay, with the exception of board policy. I move to amend the sections of the bylaws.
But we're addressing it as the board policy number, not as the bylaws section.
Yeah, that's just a cross-reference.
It's just a cross-reference table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
It's saying,
I'm okay with that, but if I had written it, it would have been board policy number 1, conflict of interest, bylaw change in article. So it looks like you're reading this, it looks like you're deleting it from the board policy instead of moving it out of the bylaws. So it's just paper confusion.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm with you now.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so
So are you doing your amendment or no?
Yes.
Did Jim?
We had
there was no second yet to your amendment.
Oh, that's right.
You said you were going to do an amendment.
I did. Okay. Director Ruff, do you want me to make the friendly amendment?
Not necessary.
Okay. I withdraw the friendly amendment.
Okay. So go back to the original. Okay, so we're back to the original motion. Ms. Johnson, well, actually, Mr. Whalen was coming up. Did you name?
No, he said he
doesn't want
his
to?
request to speak.
Okay. Are there any other names?
No more.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any additional director discussion before we?
Yes, I would like to thank Director Nowakowski and Marcia for going through this. It's a lot of work. But it's the right way to do it. And what I had proposed was really kind of a shorthand, and it wouldn't have left the record that needs to be left.
Madam President.
Director Nowakowski.
President Fimmel and myself went through all of these changes when they were originally proposed last year to ensure that what we took out of here and put into there was identical. I am 100% confident that what's in here used to be there.
Well said.
And it's going to stay there, too. Secretary Totten.
I just want to say, phew, thank you. Make it much easier on us.
Okay. Any last discussion before the roll call vote? Secretary Totten.
Director Darbut?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
Excuse me. And I vote yes. It's 8 yes, 0 no.
With a vote of 8-0, the motion passes its first reading. Director Collins.
Thank you. I move to pull up funding into the 2023 for the Arizona Department of Water Resources Water Reduction Mitigation PIF projects that are currently board approved but not allocated until 2025. The 2023 funding is required to meet spending requirements associated with the Visit Arizona Initiative grant, which requires all grantees to spend the funds by 2023. The amounts required are as follows. Willow Creek Golf Course, $120,000. Riverview Golf Course, $120,000. South Golf Course, $120,000. North Golf Course, $130,000. Lakes West Golf Course, $175,000.
Is there a second? Second by Director Ruff. Okay. You're just going to take his reading as we can do that. Marcia, would you please read the names of anyone who has signed up to speak on this issue?
Dave Whalen.
Dave Whelan, 17077. Generally, I'm trying to figure out what this means. Does this money being used for Xeriscape or to study Xeriscape? Because 3 members of the current board who ran last year on Xeriscape on the golf course, reducing the footprint, as far as I can tell, have done absolutely nothing on it. So can somebody please explain what mitigation, what all this is in English?
Do you want us to explain it, or would you like Mr. Duther or the general manager to explain it? It is not Xeriscape.
I'm not particular. Someone who knows.
You want to stop his time so he doesn't yell at me? Madam President, Mr. Whelan, the money that's being spent is actually a combination of different initiatives. Willow Creek, Riverview and South would be adding zero-escape landscaping, approximately right around 2 acres at each of those properties. The north course is the TIF-Tuff fairway conversion, which is a low water use Bermuda grass that we're trying on the fairways in the hope of reducing the amount of zero-escaping that we have to do in the future. And Lakes West is to further expand the TIF-Tuff tees that we did to a little bit more than a year ago on Lakes West on the par 3 tees. So Lakes West would be additional TIF-Tuff installation on the par 3 tee boxes.
Not sure about home, but living on the south course, 2 acres isn't very much.
No, but this money was, in part, the reason we're spending this money is the state of Arizona provided grant money 2 years ago to do some, but at the time, it was our plan to move that money into the turf reduction plans that were already in place. However, we found out that they had us to, after we were given the grant money, we found out that we have until October of this year to use it, or we have to give it back. So 2 acres isn't a lot, but it's 2 acres less we'll have to do in the future.
Having chicken's better than no chicken at all.
Dave,
So
can
we
you
have-
speak into
Do you want to come to the microphone, Dave?
I'll skip the chicken part. So we currently have plans in place for zero escape in the foreseeable future on courses, using PIF money, because that's generally what this is. Yes?
Yeah, I'll stand corrected. I didn't realize that it included zero escape. Yes. I thought it was largely the TIF-Tuff. Vice President McAdam.
So there might be somebody that can speak with more authority to this, but my understanding is that turf reduction a couple of years ago was running about $20,000 an acre. There's been an explosion in cost there, and the currently quoted rate is around $50,000 an acre. So that does impact our view of whether it's more advisable to go with a turf reduction plan or more turf reduction as opposed to TIF-Tuff. So that, as I understand it, and perhaps Bill can respond to this, there's a combination of those two, but there's also a question about whether there are less expensive ways to achieve turf reduction, because $50,000 an acre at 120 acres at South is a number that none of us even wants to think about.
We have no problem with that number on rec centers, and we're saving water. Hey, we're in a drought in spite of what happened. I'll defer to General Manager Cook.
Thank you.
Madam President, Director McAdam, you hit it right on the head. So when we initially did the budgeting or forecasting of the amount that we would need to spend in order to meet the fifth management plan, which reduces our water allotment by over 800 acre feet, we put in place the thought that we would reduce turf because the fifth management plan requires that all courses get down to 90 acres. So we have, for example, South is over 200 acres. So we would have to remove 110 to 115 acres to get down to 90 acres. However, our allotment allows us to use the water in any way we want. So if we can use it to on a golf course with 100 or 120 acres and yet still maintain our allotment, we can still do that. So we don't have to get down to the 90 acres. So what we didn't want to do is remove as many acres as we should, especially at courses like South, because it would be a heat field down there, and dust would be an issue as well. And we're only allowed to put in low water use plants, which aren't the big trees that provide a whole lot of canopy. So we wanted to look at alternatives, and so fortunately we have TIF-Tuff, which is a drought-resistant Bermuda, which if we can replace, and it's right now it is being deployed at multiple golf courses in Arizona. I've actually gone out and taken a look at them, and it's actually a better playing surface, and it's much more drought resistant. So if we can go that route, which is roughly $15,000 an acre, and not have to do removal of turf, which right now is somewhere in the $40,000 to $50,000 an acre, I think we're in much better shape, both agronomically, from a golf course user perspective, and from ADWR's perspective.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Director Ruff.
For those who may not know, we had a USGA annual visit on Tuesday. So this is just not coming from Bill and the staff here, but he really encouraged and gave us options and things to think about. And other people are doing the same thing. So I think this is well-established information. The TIF-TUF's been around for 30 years, but it hadn't been implemented because people didn't see the need for it, I guess. But it was a really interesting day on Tuesday, and was really a kudo to the golf team doing a really good job on all the courses. We went to every single course on Tuesday and checked greens, sand traps, fairways. Probably the most consistent issue was the sand traps, but some of that was just a matter of raking in the same direction every day and thinning out the amount of sand in certain areas. But otherwise, it was really a good report. Thank you.
Secretary Totten.
Director Cook, perhaps, maybe I'm down too far, but I think Mr. Weiland said, did we have that specific term, adding xeriscape and landscaping? That was not mentioned in the PIF budget, am I correct? It was called water reduction.
So, Madam President, Director Totten, no, these are good questions. They are not stupid questions. So I'm going to actually defer to Brian. Xeriscape, I don't know the definition of what that means, quite honestly, but I believe it means the removal of turf and then putting in low water use plants. But I'll let the expert talk.
Madam President, Director Totten, they're synonymous terms that are kind of used interchangeably. Turf reduction and xeriscaping is pretty much is what's left over after you take out turf.
Yes, okay. I understand that, but I didn't know if he who objected and said that was that in the PIF?
Yes.
I don't know if he, Mr. Weiland, recognized the fact that that's what that meant. So yes, it was in the PIF.
And it's also part of what we've been working with ADWR, rather than having to drastically cut off our water in 2025 and live with the consequences. We've been working with them on a staged implementation of turf reduction so we don't take the hit all at once. And
right. Well, and whoever turns down grant money.
Vice President McAdam.
This may be clear to everybody already, but the numbers as I see them are that the total that's allocated here comes to $665,000, and $525,000 of that is from the VAI, the Visit to Arizona Initiative Grant. So we're actually only looking at moving $140,000 of PIF funding that was designated for 2025 of our own money up to 2023 in order to allow us to take advantage of this much larger grant that we're receiving from Arizona.
Correct. Thank you. Is any other members sign up to speak, Marcia?
Madam President, everyone spoke who signed up.
Okay, thank you. There being no further member comments, so are there any director comments? No? Okay, then Secretary Totten, if you take the roll call vote.
Thank you. Director Darbit?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 8 yes, 0 no.
With 8 to 0 The motion passes its first read. Director Collins.
Yes, Madam President, I would like to waive the second reading.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a second? Treasurer Fast. Any director comments? Hearing no director comments, Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you. Director Darbut?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nolikowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And even though I'm not a proponent of doing, waiving second readings, we have a time factor, so I will vote yes. It's 8-0.
With a vote to 8-0 to waive the second reading, the motion is now passed. Next up is announcements. Do any of the directors have any committee or liaison information? I'm sorry. Treasurer Fast.
Thanks. I have a rather lengthy announcement. As you know, the Strategic Alternative Committee, or SAC, has been formed and had its first meeting at Oakmont Building B, which is being nicknamed the SAC Lab. The committee will be meeting weekly on Fridays at 2 o'clock. In less than 2 weeks since today, from today, the SAC Lab has been outfitted with tables, chairs, teleconference capability, video capability, whiteboards, blueprints for Option 2, site plans for Mountain View and Lakeview Recreation Center, the beginnings of a reference library, a visual depiction of all recreation centers, 2 drafting tables, and other items that will be useful as the committee moves forward. I didn't bring the committee members' names, but I think they were published, weren't they, Marcia?
They were in a blast.
Yeah, okay. At the first meeting, we discussed what the committee members wanted for meeting rules, which included a 2-hour time limit. I think that was based on posterior limits. I presented a PowerPoint presentation that will be available to all once we establish our communication channels. I personally experienced technical difficulties when I plugged the USB cable into the wrong computer port. We discussed our charter, as mentioned in the motion, which passed at the last meeting. The committee also decided to arrange tours of 2 performing arts centers. Norm Dixon agreed to present a view of utilization statistics for 2022 as compiled by Chris Herring. At the next meeting, Steve Oakes has prepared an article for the Independent on the first meeting so everyone can be informed. I believe President Fimmel will dedicate her next article in the Independent to the SAC, so again, everyone can be informed. If I can just take a minute to get my breath here, I want to thank everybody who rallied to get us up and running in record time. Future meetings will be held in the SAC Lab on Fridays at 2 o'clock. We have room for 14 guests because, I think it's 14. Well, the total room is 24, and so however many committee members there are, the remaining chairs are for guests. However, we're really working on feverishly trying to establish a 2-way communication channels like town halls, open house, email blasts, progress reports to engage our members in making our next chapter a success. The committee's mantra, believe it or not, is what would Dell do? The committee's chairs will stay after the meeting to answer any questions you have. Hopefully, what I just said only took up 3 minutes. Oh, you never started the clock. Thank you.
Sounds like you're very busy over there. Any other comments from the directors?
Yes.
Secretary Totten.
I'm the liaison for the Friends of the Library, and I'd love to tell you that this is National Library Week, so if you haven't read a book, at least start one. The special sale for the month of May at the Sun City Library will be books priced 50 cents or higher, written by female authors. Come on, ladies, support your female authors. Friends is also looking for volunteer readers to assist with the Read to Me program starting in June. The volunteers will be reading books to residents at 2 memory care adult daycare facilities. I'm also co-chair of the COC committee, and it's always exciting to share the possibility of 2 new clubs being formed, Sun City Volleyball Club and table games. It is the responsibility of the person starting the club to secure the 25 signatures that are necessary. But if you don't know about these clubs and they need help getting their signatures, here's my little plug. I don't know Kurt Holub or John Sweda. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but they might need signatures. I'm not sure. You can certainly contact the club's office to offer your support. And I also attend the Showa Roads and Safety Committee. And just a little word of advice, watch your speed on Thunderbird from 111th to 99th. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Did you get a ticket?
Okay. The next exchange meeting will be on May 8th at 9 a.m. here in Sundial. The next Board of Directors meeting will be May 25th at 9 a.m. here at Sundial. The annual member meeting is scheduled for November 29th at 6 p.m. in Sundial. There being no further business and without objection, the meeting will be adjourned. Please remember to take out your phone and electronic devices and turn them back on. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.